3 points this morning. Bitterness, its causes, its consequences, and its cure. Its causes, its consequences, and its cure. What would you say the cause of bitterness would be? I just threw out some ideas that I thought people might have. Hard luck, harsh people, hurting pain, horrible circumstances, envy, sin, and the guilt that comes from sin. What are the surface causes, at least, of bitterness? And I would say, I read somewhere it would be unmet expectations. And I would characterize it as loss. Just losing something. Loss like what Simon had. That's my first point under its cause. Loss like what Simon had. And I would have you realize that the first thing he lost was prestige. He had prestige, it says in verse 9, when there was a certain man called Simon who previously practiced sorcery in the city and astonished the people of Samaria. Okay, so he had this magic show. He was the man on stage. He was the prominent one. And there he practiced sorcery. What about us? Have we lost some prestige that makes us upset, that makes us angry, that may make us bitter? I heard somewhere, we go from our 20s to our 30s, and we go from our 30s to our 40s. And things in the society seem to be geared toward the previous group. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that you go through the mall and you used to be asked to partake of a survey, but now you've gone to the next decade. You know what I mean? You're no longer in the demographic that people care about. You're in your 50s now. You're in your 60s now. You're in your 70s now. And really, the society is geared more for the teens and the 20s and the 30s and the young demographic. And you're not in that demographic anymore. And you've kind of lost your place a little bit. Have you noticed that? Maybe there's someone that's lost a position, lost a place as a husband or a father because of divorce, because of family breakup. Place of prestige. Popularity, here it says in the beginning of verse 10, in whom they all gave heed, from the least even to the greatest. He was popular. All gave heed to them. And so there's the issue of popularity. Popularity can come, popularity can go. Here Simon was the man, the great one. He was the one that was just seen by everybody and popular, and people were friendly to him, and people really enjoyed his company. And maybe there's a place of popularity that we wane, and it becomes a point of anger and embittering. Loss. Thirdly, not only prestige, not only popularity was lost, but also pretense of divine power. Here Simon had a pretense of divine power. It goes on in verse 10 and says, this man is the great power of God. And it says at the end of verse 9 there that he was claiming that he was someone great. He had the pretense of divine power. And some of the magicians in our day certainly have this air. Some of them don't. Some of them admit they're just illusionists. But others will give you this creepy feeling that there is this divine power. One person said what this means, that he is the great power of God. In the original language it says that This man is the power of God that is called great. What does that mean? Either it means that he was the emanation of the power of the gods, or that he was God himself. What Simon believed about himself, I can't say. I don't know. But here he had the pretense of divine power. He had gotten to a place of prestige and a place of popularity and been able to do these magic tricks or sorcery or whatever it was. He kind of got deluded about it. He had this pretense of divine power. There's a church historian, I think it's a church historian, a fellow named Hippolytus. He wrote history, and we don't really know whether it's true or not, but he did write a story about Simon after this profession of faith that Simon made here at Samaria, and after his time that he went on, he was known. Simon said that he was going to be buried alive, kind of like Houdini, be buried alive, and on the third day that he would rise again. Christ died and rose again the third day. But here, according to Hippolytus, Simon, he wasn't the great power of God. He just had the pretense of the divine power. Another loss of Simon was power over people. It says here in verse 11, and they heeded him because he had astonished them. It also says earlier in the verse, I think it's verse 9, that they gave heed to him. It says it twice. The people gave heed to him. He was used to people being able to tell people what to do. They listened to him. That word heeded means to hold the mind towards, pay attention to, apply oneself to, adhere to, give attendance, to be given to. The people listened to him and were amazed by him.